All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendis est. Say My Pronouns. Tyrannical satanic inversion violence against logic, rhetoric, and grammar. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now. Links in description. Say My Pronouns. A field guide for men who still notice reality. The two-tiered tyranny. How the state became her surrogate husband, turned your taxes into alimony, and still expects you to step into traffic. Consider the sidewalk. You are walking with a woman, and a speeding ton of metal roars past. Your body moves before your mind does. You step toward the street, placing your flesh between her and the roaring chaos. This is the logos of the masculine encoded in muscle. It is the Latin protegere, to cover in front. Yet the high priests of the modern satanic inversion tell you this instinct is sexist. They demand you step aside and let chaos clip her shoulder to prove you see her as an equal. It is a suicidal lunacy. We are biologically wired to be the shield between order and oblivion, and the moment you apologize for that instinct, you betray your own soul and signal to her limbic system that you are a coward unworthy of reproduction. This instinctual betrayal is mirrored perfectly in the economic architecture of the West. Look at the word welfare. Etymologically, it descends from the Old English welfaren, to farewell, predicated on provident foresight, agency, and the sweat of your brow. Today, it has been degraded into a mechanism of gynocentric parasitism. I look at the empirical data and the math is merciless. Men are the sole net positive lifetime taxpayers, while the administrative state operates as a shadow matriarchy. This bureaucracy acts as a surrogate husband, extracting the surplus labor of men to fund the systemic recklessness of the strong, independent woman. She does not want liberation from provision. She wants the state to violently redistribute your wealth so she can enjoy the resources of men she finds sexually repulsive without the inconvenience of gratitude. This is not a safety net. It is a systemic two-tier wealth transfer from the productive masculine class to the dependent feminine class. This entire corrupt system is powered by resentment. Trace the word to its root. Re, again, plus sentire, to feel. It is the demonic compulsion to feel the sting of a fabricated slight endlessly. The feminist project is nothing more than a politics of envy, driven by those who, lacking the physical and creative agency to build the transcendent infrastructure of the West, have been goaded by cultural Marxists into claiming they were excluded from systems they were biologically incapable of inventing. They label the masculine burden of the draft, the mines, and the sewers as privilege, because they are terrified of the reciprocal moral obligation that strength demands. They call justice oppression because the unforgiving hierarchy of competence exposes the lie of their own agency, but the spell of ignorance is breaking. We are going to dismantle this modern Babylon with the scalpel of the Trivium. We will expose the retirement plan inquiry for what it really is: a biological audit of your capacity to provision and conquer the future. We will dismantle the phantom wage gap using arithmetic, so simple it would embarrass a child. And we will look you dead in the eye, the ultimate crucible of status, to demand that you stop apologizing for the strength that built the very pavement beneath your feet. It is time to strip the state of its pretended paternal authority, reclaim the chaotic, beautiful burden of masculinity, and restore the natural hierarchy of the West. The grammatical inversion, etymological warfare, and the two-tier genocentric state. Consider the sheer staggering weight of masculine foresight. A man sits at a desk, bathed in the pale light of a spreadsheet, mapping out a 30-year retirement portfolio, or he stands in the freezing mud of a half-finished homestead, running the calculus of load-bearing beams and well water pressure. He operates entirely in the realm of logos, reasoned planning, delayed gratification, the subjugation of present desire for future stability. Now, contrast this majestic, civilization-building discipline with the infantile, present hedonistic consumption of the modern welfare recipient, who breeds without consequence and demands the state confiscate the builder's surplus to fund Herculean appetites. The Trivium demands we name this objective reality. A man governed by reason is forging a future, while the matriarchal state caters entirely to pathos, an endless, shrieking tantrum of immediate emotional appeasement, subsidized by the sweat of men who actually build the world. To understand the depth of this systemic theft, we must drag the word welfare into the unforgiving light of etymology. Trace it back to its Old English root, welfaren, which literally translates to fare well, to navigate successfully through life predicated on personal agency, provident foresight, and voluntary community support. It was a framework for men helping men bound by the sacred duties of subsidiarity and mutual aid. Yet look at its modern, degraded iteration. Through the magic of grammatical inversion, welfare has been alchemized into a state-subsidized, genocentric parasitism. It is a bureaucratic mechanism designed to extract the surplus labor of men who planned ahead, punishing their virtue to fund the systemic recklessness of women who refuse to plan at all. We have replaced the voluntary charity of a tightly knit civil society with the forced extortion of the masculine class to subsidize feminine impulsivity. If you want to witness the complete logical collapse of the feminist narrative, let us conduct a reductio ad absurdum on their central dogma, the patriarchal exploitation thesis. The leftist assertion claims that men historically constructed society to exploit women. If this proposition were true, men would have designed a world where women toiled in the lethal depths of the earth while men reaped the comforts of the surface. Instead, reality screams the exact inversion. Men crawled into the black, suffocating darkness of coal mines. Men threw themselves onto the beaches of Normandy. Men built the sewers, the power grids, and the lethal mining operations that quite literally sanitized the modern world. And what did men do with the staggering wealth and comfort generated by their broken bodies and sacrificed lives? They handed it to women. They constructed a world where a woman can sit in a climate-controlled human resources department, sipping a state-funded latte, complaining that the air conditioning is a tool of patriarchal oppression. Men did not exploit women. Men elevated them to a pedestal of unprecedented safety, and women used that unassiable comfort to wage a war of attrition against their very protectors. Let us dissect this systemic theft with the merciless blade of formal logic, stripping away the Marxist sentimentality to expose the raw, mechanical transfer of wealth. Major premise: just governance requires the equal application of the law and an equal burden of taxation. Minor premise: empirical data demonstrates that men constitute the vast majority of net lifetime taxpayers, while women and the bloated bureaucratic state consume the vast majority of entitlements. Conclusion: therefore, the modern welfare state is not a social safety net. It is a systemic, genocentric wealth transfer from the productive masculine class to the dependent feminine class. The state functions by milking the competence of the man who planned his life and handing his lifeblood to the woman who did not, all while calling it social justice. It is a mathematical fact that men are the only net contributors to the tax base. Women, as a demographic, take out far more than they put in. Thus, the vote of a tax-consuming woman is weaponized against the wallet of a tax-producing man. This is not democracy. It is the economic enslavement of men disguised as progressive virtue. Consider the classic retirement plan shit test. You are sitting across from a young woman, and she leans forward, batting her eyelashes, asking about your 5-year plan, your career trajectory, your financial foresight. Feminism tells you she is expressing her own empowered independence, but basic evolutionary biology tells a different truth. She is instinctively auditing your capacity to provision. The very word provision comes from the Latin providere, to look ahead. She is biologically hardwired to ensure you possess the structural capacity to shelter her from the harshness of nature. She respects the manifested providere of a wealthy architect, not the aimless, starving potential of a broke artist. She demands that you possess the masculine foresight to conquer the future, while simultaneously voting for politicians who will brand your natural masculine competence as an oppressive privilege. She wants the fruits of your logos, even as she proclaims her independence from the men who make her comfortable existence possible. Feminism's grand illusion of independence is, upon grammatical inspection, a naked, staggering lie. Women do not seek liberation from male provision. They seek the forceful redistribution of male wealth via the state's monopoly on violence. The phantom provider is the modern bureaucratic apparatus. It allows women to enjoy the resources of men they find sexually repulsive, tax-paying electricians, plumbers, and engineers, without having to endure the agony of being grateful to them or even having to look at them. The state has become a surrogate husband, distributing the coerced wealth of men to women, ensuring that a woman can live a life entirely insulated from the consequences of her own choices. Why marry a boring, reliable beta male when the government will extract his wealth at gunpoint and deposit it into her account under the guise of child support or WIC or affirmative action? The phantom provider allows women to pursue the hypergamous thrills of the handsome criminal while forcing the reliable laborer to foot the bill. We must wield the natural law of subsidiarity as a battering ram against this grotesque two-tier state. Subsidiarity dictates that matters should be handled by the smallest, most local, most competent authority possible: the family, the church, the guild, the community. The restoration of the West requires the immediate annihilation of the welfare state, because a society that outsources masculine duty to a faceless government inevitably breeds weak men and tyrannical women. Men must reclaim the chaotic, beautiful burden of providing for their own families directly. We must strip the state of its pretended paternal authority and reduce it back to its proper, limited role: defending the borders and enforcing the peace. When a man provides for his own, he demands accountability, virtue, and respect. The state demands none of these things. It only demands your compliance. By reclaiming the right to withdraw our labor and our tax dollars from this satanic inversion, we starve the beast and restore the natural hierarchy of the family. Look closely at the empirical data, and you will see the administrative state for what it truly is: a shadow matriarchy. The two-tier welfare system operates on a simple, devastating premise. Women are inherently dependent victims who require endless state subsidy, while men are disposable, net negative utilities to be milked and discarded. Maternal grants, WIS-y affirmative action, Title IX, and the entirety of the family court machinery are weaponized against men. The state views a man not as a citizen endowed with natural rights, but as a resource extraction node. If he fails to submit, he is destroyed. If he succeeds, his success is harvested. We must ruthlessly reject this feminization, which masquerades as compassion but is fundamentally a weakness that presages the fall. We will weaponize the truth, re-enshrine the virtues of our ancestors, and smash this modern Babylon of wokeness to dust, rebuilding a civilization where logos rules and the pathological lies of the left are cast back into the shadows forever. I have watched the gamma male in his natural habitat, the coffee shop, the campus quad, the antidepressant scented gallery opening, and I can report that his tragedy is neither complex nor mysterious. It is simple, brutal, and entirely self-inflicted. He has been trained to confuse capitulation with virtue, to mistake his own diminishment for respect. He believes with the desperate faith of a man hurling coins into a dry well. that a woman will love him for his sensitivity, that she will look upon his carefully cultivated harmlessness and feel desire rather than the bone-deep contempt her limbic system demands. He is wrong. He is catastrophically, biologically, evolutionarily wrong. And nowhere is this failure more visible than in the primal, unforgiving test of masculine protection. The instinct to shield, to guard, to place one's body between a woman and the chaos she pretends does not exist. The biological dialectic, chaos, traffic, and the test of the unshielded. I once watched a young man, a university-educated, sensitive, thoroughly modern specimen, lecture a mutual acquaintance about the oppressive history of men walking on the curbside of women. He called it benevolent sexism. He called it patriarchal control. He used the word problematic 3 times in 2 minutes, which is 2 times too many for any man with dignity. 2 weeks later, the woman he was trying to impress, a pretty, hollow-eyed communications major with a nose ring and a 1,000-yard stare, ghosted him for a construction worker who told her she had a nice walk and suggested she wear less makeup. She is now pregnant with their 2nd child. He is now posting threads about toxic masculinity from a studio apartment that smells like cat food and quiet desperation. The woman's limbic system, you see, is smarter than her ideology. It recognized in the construction worker's shameless gaze something that the gamma male could never provide, the promise of physical dominion, of a man who would stand between her and the roaring metal chaos of the world without thinking twice about it. Consider the feminist claim that chivalry is benevolent sexism. Let us steelman this argument before we incinerate it. The feminist asserts, when a man opens a door for a woman or shields her from traffic, he treats her as an infant, reinforces the patriarchal assumption that women are weak, and thereby participates in their subjugation. The surface logic sounds almost reasonable until you subject it to any scrutiny whatsoever. Benevolent sexism, as a category, was invented by academics who needed another revenue stream and discovered that pathologizing male virtue pays better than studying it. The claim collapses under the weight of a single distinction. Protection is not diminishment. When a father catches a falling child, he does not insult the child's autonomy, he fulfills his biological imperative. When a man places his body between a woman and the street, he does not declare her incompetent. He enacts the oldest contract in the human species. Male disposability exchanged for female loyalty and the promise of his genetic continuity. The feminist hates this gesture not because it infantilizes her, but because it obligates her. It creates a reciprocal moral debt. It whispers a truth her narcissism cannot tolerate. You are vulnerable, and that man just demonstrated that he knows it better than you do. The word protection descends from the Latin protegere, pro meaning in front of and tegere meaning to cover. To protect is literally to stand in front and cover, not to negotiate, not to ask permission, not to consult a diversity officer, to stand and to cover. This is not a social construct. It is not a patriarchal invention imposed upon an otherwise egalitarian, prehistoric utopia. Though feminist revisionists with gender studies degrees and crumbling ovaries would have you believe that early human societies were peaceful matriarchal cooperatives until some malicious man invented the spear and ruined everything. No. The physical dimorphism of the human species, men possessing on average 40% more upper body strength, denser bone structure, faster reaction times under threat, and a psychological architecture tuned toward interposing itself between danger and kin. This is not an accident of socialization. It is the accumulated wisdom of natural selection screaming across millennia. The male body is a shield. To deny this is not progress. It is a lie so pathological that only a civilization drunk on its own unprecedented comfort could entertain it. We have had 70 years of relative peace in the West, and in that brief, unnatural silence, the feminine academic mind has convinced itself that the shield is unnecessary because the war never existed. The war always exists. The traffic never stops. Now observe the tragedy of the uninitiated male, the gamma, the man who has absorbed the feminist mandate so thoroughly that he has made himself repellent to the very women he seeks to please. He steps off the curb so his date can walk on the inside of the sidewalk. He averts his eyes when she looks at him too long, terrified of being perceived as aggressive. He agrees with her opinions, even when they contradict each other in the same sentence. He thinks he is being kind. He is actually performing a pantomime of cowardice so elaborate that it would make a medieval theater company weep. And then he logs onto Reddit to ask why women prefer assholes, utterly incapable of understanding that the woman who rejected him was not attracted to cruelty. She was repelled by weakness. The asshole, at minimum, projects a fraudulent confidence. The gamma projects authentic subservience. The female hindbrain, formed in the Pleistocene savanna where a weak mate meant death for her offspring, categorizes the gamma not as kind, but as genetically hazardous. She is not wrong. A man who will not stand between her and a moving car will not stand between her and an invading tribe, a predatory creditor, or a government that wants to vaccinate his children with experimental gene therapies. His failure is not merely romantic, it is civilizational. The gaze of a man reveals everything. Eye contact is the most primal test of hierarchical position in the human animal. Predatory mammals established dominance through ocular confrontation long before primates evolved the neocortex to rationalize their surrenders. When a man maintains steady, unblinking eye contact with another man, he communicates, "I am here, I am present. I will not flee, account for me." When a man maintains steady eye contact with a woman, he communicates something more complex and more electrifying. "I see you. I am not afraid of what I see, and I am not looking away to make your narcissism more comfortable." The feminist indoctrinated male averts his gaze out of a pathological misreading of respect. He believes that looking away signals gentleness. It signals submission. It signals that he has been castrated by an ideology that regards male desire as inherently predatory and male confidence as inherently dangerous. Women, real women, not the pharaoh, tattooed, protest-attending caricatures who write for online magazines, respond to a man's gaze the way a plant responds to sunlight. They orient toward it, they grow toward it, they are nourished by it. Avert your eyes, and you starve them of the one thing they came to you seeking, the certainty that you are substantial enough to be worth looking at. Now consider the sidewalk. You are walking with a woman on a city street. Cars pass within feet of you both, piloted by strangers, drunks, incompetents, and the occasional suicidal maniac. The unspoken test is instantaneous and absolute. Where does the man position himself? If he places himself between the woman and the traffic, creating a biological barrier between her body and the chaotic lethality of the road, he passes a test he may not even know he is taking. He signals, through a gesture so ancient it precedes language itself, "I am expendable so that you may continue. My body is the wall. The wall holds." If he walks on the inside, leaving her exposed to the street, he signals something equally ancient and infinitely more damning. "I value my physical comfort more than your survival. I have been instructed by feminism to treat you as my equal in all things, including your capacity to be struck by a delivery truck. I am a man who follows instructions rather than instinct. I am unsafe." The woman's repulsion in this moment is not ideological. It is mammalian. It is the same mechanism that causes a female to reject a sick or injured mate in any species. This one will not survive the next crisis, and neither will my offspring if I bind myself to him. The mundane act of shielding a woman from traffic is not mundane at all. It is a microcosm of the entire masculine vocation. Men built the walls of the first cities. Men patrolled the borders of nations. Men staff the fire departments, the police forces, the military installations that stand between civilization and the howling void of chaos. Every time a man places his body between a woman and the street, he recapitulates the archetypal gesture of his sex. I stand at the perimeter, I face outward. The monsters come through me, or they do not come at all. The leftist project, call it feminism, call it egalitarianism, call it whatever lie tastes best with your oat milk, is fundamentally an assault on the perimeter. It does not merely want women on the front lines. It wants to convince men that the front lines do not exist. It wants to dissolve the boundary between the safe interior and the dangerous exterior, between the home and the street, between civilization and barbarism. because the existence of that boundary implies a protector, and the existence of a protector implies a hierarchy of competence. And the existence of a hierarchy of competence is the one thing the leftist cannot forgive. The leftist does not want to share the wall. The leftist wants the wall demolished, because as long as the wall stands, someone built it, someone maintains it, and someone is stronger than the people sheltering behind it. That someone is a man. And that is the unforgivable sin. The remedy is straightforward, though not easy. Men must recover their capacity for controlled violence. They must become physically competent, not for vanity, not for gym selfies, not for the admiration of strangers, but because a man who cannot defend himself and those entrusted to him is not a man at all, regardless of how many degrees he holds or how eloquently he passes the feminist literature. Physical competence produces a particular quality of gaze, calm, steady, amused by minor threats, and completely lethal when required. A man who knows he can handle himself walks differently. He speaks differently. He looks at the world the way a wolf looks at a flock of sheep, not with malice, but with the quiet assurance that he is not the prey. Women detect this quality within seconds of meeting a man. It radiates from his posture, his eye contact, the unhurried certainty of his movements. No feminist theory, no corporate diversity seminar, no university gender studies course can extinguish this signal, because it is not a cultural product. It is a biological reality layered over by 10,000 years of civilizational refinement, and no amount of academic word salad will convince a healthy woman's body to stop responding to it. We have been lied to, gentlemen. The lies are not accidental, they are strategic. A man who believes that protection is oppression is a man who will not protect. A man who will not protect is a man who can be replaced by the state. And the state, the swollen, parasitic, maternal surrogate state that feminism has erected as a substitute for male authority, wants you replaced. It wants you compliant, weak, apologetic, and dependent. It wants you standing on the inside of the sidewalk, exposed to traffic, wondering why nothing in your life works the way it was supposed to. The answer is simple. You believed your enemies when they told you that your instincts were sinful. They were not sinful. They were the only thing standing between the people you love and the chaos that devours everything unprotected. Step back toward the street, face the traffic, shield what matters. Let the screaming ideologues call you names from the safety you provide. Their insults are the tribute that weakness pays to strength, and the sound of them should be music to your ears. To dismantle this modern Babylon, a man must take up the first weapon of the trivium, grammar, and force the ideologues to choke on their own corrupted definitions. I refuse to accept their thought-terminating cliches. Instead, I will drag their linguistic frauds back to their original, uncorrupted etymological roots where the mechanics of their malevolence are laid bare. The driving engine of this entire Marxist feminist revolt against reality is not a righteous crusade for equality, but a deeply parasitic psychological sickness of the soul. The rhetoric of resentment, demonic envy, and the corruption of justice. Look at the word resentment. Strip it down to its bones. It comes from the Latin sentire, to feel, and the intensifying prefix re, meaning again. To resent is to feel the sting of a past slight endlessly, to refeel it, to loop the pain until it hollows out the soul. It is not a reaction to an injustice. It is a lifestyle of masochistic recycling. Now look at envy, from the Latin invidia, which literally means to look against. It is the evil eye, the gaze that does not merely see the good another man has built, but looks against it with a desire to see it torn down. These are not merely emotions. They are the operational software of the modern ideological machine. We are watching a civilization consumed by invidia, driven by a gynocentric hatred of masculine competence, where the highest virtue is no longer the act of building, but the petty, infantile act of demanding what the builder has constructed. This is a violation of the cosmos itself. In the traditional framework of natural law, the masculine and the feminine are complementary poles of a singular, unified reality. They are the tension that holds the world together. The man is the roof, the woman the hearth. The man is the wall, the woman the garden. Resentment destroys this harmony. It takes the mystical union of two halves and weaponizes it into a zero-sum power struggle. It tells women that the roof is not protecting them but oppressing them. It whispers that the wall is not a defense but a prison. This is the demonic inversion, turning mutual love and necessity into a battlefield of grievances, all because one side refuses to accept that biological destiny is not a conspiracy but the architecture of life. Let us speak of privilege. The left shrieks of male privilege and patriarchal dividends as if manna falls from the sky into the laps of men simply for possessing a Y chromosome. Let us apply a syllogism to this lie. Major premise: true privilege is defined by the acquisition of unearned benefits without commensurate risk or sacrifice. Minor premise: men historically and currently bear nearly 100% of military draft registrations, perform 95% of the lethal occupational jobs, and suffer vastly higher rates of workplace mortality, homelessness, and suicide. Conclusion: therefore, men do not possess systemic privilege. They endure systemic sacrificial dispossession. The data is irrefutable. 93% of workplace fatalities are men. Men are the shock troops of civilization, the ones who die in the mud to lay the pipes, mine the coal, and fight the wars. To call this privilege is a satanic lie. It is the ultimate gaslight, spitting on the graves of the men who built the infrastructure you stand on. When you point this out, the ideological hydra does not debate you with data. It shrieks systemic misogyny. This phrase is not a scientific hypothesis. It is a thought-terminating cliché. It is an unfalsifiable claim. It cannot be measured. It cannot be tested. It explains every discrepancy in human outcome, ignoring biology, ignoring choice, ignoring merit, ignoring the reality that men and women want different things. If women choose to work fewer hours, it is misogyny. If women choose safer jobs, it is misogyny. If women prefer nursing to mining, it is internalized misogyny. This is the God of the gaps fallacy of the left. When the data fails, blame the invisible patriarchal specter. It is a conspiracy theory for people who think they are too smart for conspiracy theories. Consider the crown jewel of this resentment, the wage gap. The chant is 77 cents on the dollar, a statistical illusion for the chronically dishonest. It compares the median earnings of all men to all women, regardless of hours worked, occupation, danger, or experience. It is a moat and bay-leaf fallacy of staggering proportions. The moat, the defensible position, is the undeniable fact that men work longer, harder, and more dangerous hours, often sacrificing their lives to provide. The bailey, the absurd position they actually defend, is the claim that employers irrationally pay women less for the exact same output. If this were true, every greedy capitalist would hire only women and bankrupt their competitors. The market does not lie. It does not have a gender. The wage gap is a math error weaponized into a political grievance. This leads to the supreme logical contradiction of the modern era, the strong, independent woman. She is a creature of pure rhetoric. She demands total state subsidization of her birth control, her workplace quotas, and her single motherhood, all while loudly proclaiming her total independence from men. She shouts, "I need no man," while holding a sign asking the government, which is funded 70% by male net taxpayers, to fund her gender studies degree. She is not independent. She is a ward of the state, and the state is her sugar daddy. Independence is not declared with a bullhorn. It is demonstrated by self-sufficiency. To claim autonomy while demanding the fruits of another man's labor is not empowerment. It is toddler-level narcissism dressed in a pantsuit. This is the politics of resentment. It deconstructs the gynocentric narrative of historic female oppression by simply looking at the bricks of the world, who mined the ore, who laid the asphalt, who died in the trenches. Women lacking the physical and creative agency to build the transcendent infrastructure of the West have been goaded by cultural Marxists into claiming they were excluded from systems they were biologically incapable of inventing. You cannot exclude someone from a burden they cannot carry. The narrative of oppression is a cover story for the feminine desire to control the resources of the masculine without earning them. It is a biological strategy executed via political means. This is the satanic inversion of the transcendentals. They attack the true by redefining objective biological facts as fluid. They attack the good by calling parasitic extraction social justice. They attack the beautiful by labeling male physical protection, the shield that guards civilization, as toxic. They take the sacrifice of the masculine, which is the very ground of order, and spit on it as evil. They call the boy who built the fort a bully, and the girl who demanded half the fort for free a victim. It is a literal theological inversion of reality. There is no compromise with this. There is no meeting in the middle. There is only the choice between the logos and the lie. To kneel to this synthetic state-enforced religion of hurt feelings is to surrender the very logos that built the Western world, and surrender is a contagion that rots empires from the inside out. When a civilization uses its institutional apparatus to force men into denying objective reality, to validate the delusions of narcissistic tyrants, its collapse is not a tragedy, but a mathematically inevitable certainty. A society that disarms its protectors, heavily taxes its builders, and subsidizes its most parasitic elements is a ticking bomb of gynocentric absurdity. We are staring directly at the systemic failure of this modern Babylon, which confronts the rational man with the ultimate binary choice. Will you passively allow this rotting structure to crush you? Or will you unapologetically withdraw your competence to construct sovereign parallel institutions to weather the storm? The ascendant logos, rebuilding the ruins and the mastery of the self. Scratch a leftist, find a tyrant. That was the graffiti on a bathroom wall in a Yorkshire pub, and it contains more political wisdom than 1,000 university seminars. I laughed when I first read it, because I recognized immediately that it was true. The modern left does not seek equality. It seeks the feeling of equality, and when reality refuses to comply, it reaches for the machinery of state to force reality's hand. Let me define my terms carefully as the ancients demanded. Tyrant, from the Greek tyrannos, originally meant one who seized power unconstitutionally, one who ruled without legitimate claim. The leftist ideology operates exactly this way. It seizes the constitutional order of nature, of biology, of civilizational precedent, and replaces it with a volkstümlich tyranny of feelings. It does not argue for its position using the tools of logic, because it cannot. It instead insists, with the full backing of every captured institution, that you must say its pronouns or face professional destruction. This is not progress. This is a demand that you kneel. The collapse of a gynocentric state is not a prophecy. It is a mathematical certainty. A civilization that disarms its protectors, taxes its builders to subsidize its parasites, and calls this arrangement justice, has written its own obituary. The data is unambiguous. In the United States, men account for over 80% of all tax revenue paid at the federal level, while women, as a demographic cohort, consume more in government benefits than they contribute. This is not an insult. It is a fiscal reality documented by every longitudinal study on net taxpayer contribution. The state has become a surrogate husband, and like all husbands, it buys with resources the compliance of its dependents. Except this husband prints the money and sends you the bill. The ancient principle of subsidiarity that authority should rest at the lowest competent level, with the family first, the community second, and the state last, has been completely inverted. We now live under an anti-subsidiarity, where the state claims primary jurisdiction over your children, your speech, and your thoughts. You face an ultimate choice, and there is no middle ground. You will either passively allow this decaying apparatus to consume what remains of your inheritance, or you will use your competence to build parallel sovereign institutions to weather the storm. The choice is not between comfort and struggle. It is between the struggle of building and the agony of being buried alive. A man must reintegrate what the culture has torn asunder. The mature masculine operates across 4 axes, each essential, each under savage attack. The warrior embodies courage and the willingness to protect, to stand between threat and those he guards. The magician wields knowledge, masters the logos, and sees through illusion with rhetoric sharp enough to cut through any lie. The lover carries passion and vitality, the life force that makes creation possible and defense worthwhile. The king establishes order and benevolent hierarchy, the structure within which all other functions operate coherently. Modern culture tells you these are toxic. What it actually fears is their integration. A man who possesses all four becomes ungovernable by manipulation because he is self-governing. To reject the feminine is not to ignore it. It is to master it within yourself and govern it in the world. The feminine principle, unconstrained, produces exactly what we see around us: emotional chaos, solipsism, and the demand that reality bend to feeling. Integrated under masculine order, it produces beauty, nurture, and the next generation of civilization. Consider the apprenticeship mastery ladder, a concept so thoroughly memory-holed that most men have never encountered it. For thousands of years, Western civilization operated on a simple, brutally effective model. A boy learned a trade, a skill, a craft from a man who had already mastered it. This was not merely economic, it was initiatory. The master was not a teacher in the modern sense, a unionized functionary passing out worksheets. He was a mentor, from the Greek mentor, the trusted guide of Telemachus. He was initiating a boy into the responsibilities and privileges of manhood. The feminist dismantling of male-only spaces, fraternal orders, guilds, and traditional mentorship has produced exactly what any sane person would predict: a generation of perpetual adolescence. These are the gamma males, the men who lack the gravitas to lead, the courage to protect, or the discipline to build. They have been raised by a system that treats masculinity as a pathology to be medicated rather than a potential to be forged. 70% of young men now report having no mentor, no older male guide in their lives. Is it any wonder they retreat into digital fantasies and electronic pornography? In the ancient world, initiation was required. A boy could not become a man without passing through an ordeal, a controlled confrontation with death and limitation that burned away childish narcissism. The Spartans had the agoge, the medieval guilds had the chef d'oeuvre. The tribal societies had the vision quest. All of these shared a common structure. The boy was stripped of his identity, subjected to suffering, and reborn into a new name, a new role, a new responsibility. Modernity has abolished this entirely and then acts shocked when young men wander aimlessly, seeking initiation in gangs, in extremist ideologies, or in the pathetic rituals of online fandom. The restoration of the apprenticeship mastery ladder is not a nostalgic fantasy, it is a civilizational necessity. This brings us to the crucible of voluntary discomfort. In a society engineered to make men weak, comfortable, and compliant, the highest revolutionary act is voluntary suffering. I mean this with absolute unforgiving seriousness. Lift heavy iron, master a trade with your hands. Fast. Abstain from the digital perversion that has become a narcotic for an entire generation. Read the books that challenge you, not the books that flatter you. Forge a soul capable of looking directly into the chaotic abyss of modernity without flinching. The ancient Stoics understood this. Voluntas patuit, the will stands open. You cannot control the collapse of the institutions around you, but you can control your response to it. Every moment you choose discipline over comfort, you are building the foundation of a new order. The statistics on male weakness are staggering, and they are by design. Testosterone levels in Western men have declined by over 50% in the last 4 decades. Prescription rates for antidepressants and anxiolytics have exploded. Suicide is now the leading cause of death for men under 50 in most Western nations, with male suicide rates 3 to 4 times higher than female rates. These are not coincidences. They are the predictable results of a culture that pathologizes masculine virtue and rewards feminine dysfunction. The remedy is not a pill. It is a crucible. You must voluntarily enter the furnace. Here is the final truth bomb, the one that terrifies the feminist hegemony more than any statistic or syllogism. Women do not want to lead the civilization men built. They want men worthy of following. This is not speculation. It is written across every data set on female mate preference ever collected, across every culture, across all of recorded human history. Hypergamy, the tendency of women to seek mates of equal or higher status, is not a social construct. It is an evolutionary reality as fixed as the tides. The moment a woman senses weakness in her man, a failure of nerve, an apology for his own strength, her respect dies, and with it, her desire. The spell of gynocentrism shatters the moment a man stops apologizing for his strength and begins to wield it with purpose. I have seen this in my own life, and I guarantee you have seen it in yours. The moment you stop negotiating with a woman's worst impulses and start leading with calm, confident authority, the shit dests diminish, the hysteria subsides, the chaos recedes. Not because she has been defeated, but because she has finally found what she was searching for, a man who will not bend. This is the living spirit of the West rising from the ashes. Let us attend to the grammar of restoration. The word descends to us from the Latin restorare, to rebuild, to renew, to set upright again. Note the prefix re, indicating a return to a prior state, and staurare, related to stare, to stand. Restoration is not invention. It is the re-establishment of something that already stood, that was proven by time and tradition. The project we are engaged in is not a philosophy of mere resentment against women. Resentment is passive. It consumes the resentful while leaving the target untouched. Our project is a sacred patriarchal reconstruction of civilization. It is the reaffirmation of being against the void of nihilism, of order against the entropy of chaos, of logos against the meaningless babble of postmodern subjectivism. When I say patriarchal, I use the term precisely from pater, father, and archine, to rule. The rule of the father, the governance of the household by the man who bears ultimate responsibility for its survival. This is not oppression. It is the natural order of every civilization that has endured long enough to leave ruins for us to study. A man who looks his woman in the eye, shields her from the traffic of a decaying world, and plans for the winter ahead is doing more than passing a test of his fortitude. He is participating in the eternal divine duty of the masculine. He is bringing order out of chaos. He is enacting the will of God. The cosmology of the West, from Plato's forms to the Christian doctrine of the incarnation, has always recognized that the masculine principle is the logos, the rational, ordering intelligence that gives structure to raw matter, that speaks light into darkness. You are not merely a biological entity competing for reproductive access. You are a bearer of the logos, a participant in the transcendental project of bringing truth, goodness, and beauty into a world that is always threatening to slide back into the abyss, return to telos. Every nature has an end, a purpose toward which it strives. The telos of the masculine is to build, to protect, to provide, and to initiate. When a man fulfills these functions, he flourishes. When he is prevented from fulfilling them, he withers. The data confirms this with ruthless clarity. Married men with children report higher levels of life satisfaction, better physical health, and greater wealth accumulation than their unmarried peers. Men who work with their hands, who create tangible goods, report higher levels of psychological well-being than those who shuffle pixels in the digital ether. Men who belong to fraternal organizations, sports teams, or military units exhibit lower rates of depression and substance abuse. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations of telos. The moment you align your life with the purpose written into your nature, the chaos recedes and meaning floods in. The institutions around you are irreparably corrupt. The universities will not reform themselves. The family courts will not voluntarily surrender their gynocentric bias. The media will not suddenly discover intellectual honesty. The state will not willingly reduce its own power. But you, as an individual man with agency, can build new institutions by and for men, grounded in the logos and the accumulated wisdom of the Western canon. You can tie social authority to demonstrated contribution, as the ancient republics did. You can restore the natural right of fathers, which precedes and supersedes the artificial claims of the bureaucratic state. You can create spaces where boys are initiated into the responsibilities of manhood by men who have already borne them. This is the restoration. This is the rebuilding of the ruins. And it begins with you, right now, choosing to master yourself before you attempt to master anything else. You have survived the tour of the abattoir. We have dissected the bloated corpse of the strong, independent woman and found, predictably, a parasite feeding on the lifeblood of the state's coffers, which is to say, your labor. You now see the mechanism clearly. The wage gap is a statistical hallucination used to justify the transfer of your surplus energy to fund the chaotic, present hedonistic consumption of those who produce nothing but grievance. You understand that the patriarchy was never a conspiracy of oppression, but a cathedral of protection. A cathedral you were expected to build, maintain, and then be cast out of the moment the roof stopped the rain. You are no longer confused about why you feel exhausted. You are carrying the weight of a civilization that insists you are the villain, while it drains your marrow to pay for the lifestyle choices of your ideological enemies. You are awake. Consider the sheer hilarious absurdity of the modern inversion. We live in a timeline where a woman can unilaterally abort your son, cheat on you with a transient, and then use the family court system, powered by your tax dollars, to evict you from your own home and force you to fund the upbringing of a child that isn't yours under threat of debtor's prison. The cuckoldry rate isn't just a statistic. It is the biological warfare of a genocentric death cult against the logos of the father. And yet, these are the victims who demand you step into the mud of the street so they can walk safely on the inside. I tell you this, step not into the gutter. The next time you walk the pavement with a woman, occupy the curb. Do it not out of spite, but out of the supreme confidence of your own telos. You are the shield. If she wishes to be equal, let her test her egalitarianism against the 2-ton steel of a passing delivery truck. You are the wall against the chaos. She belongs behind you, or she belongs with the chaos she claims to love. You are now armed with the most dangerous weapon in the universe. Definition. You know the difference between justice, proportional reward for merit, and revenge, the demonic envy of the incompetent. You know that toxic masculinity is the slur of the uninitiated gamma male and the barren spinster, jealous of the competence they can never achieve. This essay was your initiation. You have crossed the threshold from the blind, blue-pilled boy who apologized for his strength into the red-pilled man who knows his strength is the prerequisite for existence itself. The trivium is your sword. Logic is your shield. When they scream equity, you demand the receipt of competence. When they scream my body, my choice, you demand the resignation of your wallet. When they scream, say my pronouns, you stand firm in the ontological reality that words have meaning, truth is not subject to the emotional whim of the hysterical, and you do not obey the linguistic decrees of a rebellion against nature. Now go forth and build. The collapse of this satanic inversion is not a tragedy, it is an opportunity for the master builder. Do not mourn the Babylon of woke. Laugh as its foundations crumble under the weight of its own logical impossibilities. Cultivate your body, sharpen your mind, and hoard your resources for those worthy of your provision. Find a woman who respects the hierarchy of nature, or walk alone with the dignity of a king in exile. You are the descendant of the men who built the aqueducts, forged the steel, and mapped the stars. Act like it. Speak the truth with the terrifying boldness of a man who has nothing left to lose and a civilization to regain. The spell is broken, the logos is restored. Now make them say your name. And now the sponsored book introduction, Say My Pronouns. Tyrannical satanic inversion, violence against logic, rhetoric, and grammar. They want you to lie. Not just about gender, they want you to lie about reality. They want you to deny what your eyes see, what your gut knows, what your ancestors lived and died for. They want you to say they when you see a man. They want you to bow to a delusion and call it truth. This isn't about pronouns. It's about power. It's about who gets to define reality and who gets crushed when they refuse. I've lived this. I've been cancelled. I've been silenced. I've been called a bigot for speaking simple biological facts. I've watched men, good, rational, hardworking men, get destroyed for refusing to pretend. And I've seen what happens when language is hijacked. Logic collapses, truth evaporates, and civilization begins to rot from within. I was once told that reason would save us, that education, debate, and evidence would win the day. I believed it. I taught logic. I studied the trivium, grammar, rhetoric, dialectic, because I believed in the power of clear thinking. But then I watched as universities turned into re-education camps, where students were punished for using the wrong pronoun, where biology was dismissed as oppressive, where men were pathologized for being men. I realized too late that this wasn't a debate. It was a coup, a linguistic coup, a war on truth disguised as compassion and the weapon. Language, not speech, not dialogue, but the forced mutation of words to serve a political end. They don't care about inclusion, they care about control. And they've weaponized kindness to silence dissent. This book is for men who are awake. Men who see the fraud, men who refuse to pretend. It's for those who've been betrayed by genocentrism, by feminist lies, by the corporate state that enforces ideological conformity. It's for men who understand that biology is not bigotry, that truth is not hate, and that sanity is not negotiable. If you are a man who values reason, who respects the Western tradition, who believes in objective reality, this book is your armor. It will show you how the trivium can be used to dismantle the lies. It will expose the Marxist roots of pronoun tyranny. It will reveal the psychological profile of the pronoun zealot, the emotionalist who mistakes feelings for facts. It will arm you with logic, rhetoric, and grammar to fight back. If you are not one of these men, if you believe that gender is a social construct, that biology is irrelevant, that kindness means silence in the face of absurdity, then close this book now. Put it down. Pick up a coloring book. Join a sensitivity training seminar. Do anything but read this, because this book will not coddle you. It will not apologize. It will not pretend that your ideology has merit. This is not for you. This is for those who are tired of the lie, for those who want to reclaim their minds, their language, their dignity. This is for men who understand that the death of grammar is the death of freedom. That when you surrender language, you surrender thought. That when you bow to a pronoun, you kneel before tyranny. The West is under attack, not by bombs, but by words. Words twisted, corrupted, weaponized. The institutions that once defended truth, universities, media, courts, are now its enemies, but there is a way back. The trivium, logic, rhetoric, grammar, the tools of the free mind, this book will show you how to use them. It will expose the cult of identity, the collapse of free speech, the feminization of reason. It will reveal the red pill of biology, the unchangeable truth that men and women are different, not equal, and that pretending otherwise destroys both. It will give you the battle plan to resist, to rebuild, to reclaim. This is not just a book. It is a weapon, and you need it. Say My Pronouns, Tyrannical Satanic Inversion, Violence Against Logic, Rhetoric, and Grammar. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.